Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello, and welcome to this part 3 of episode 9 of the Rabbits Podcast breakdown. Got one more part in episode 9, then we'll hit episode 10, and it looks like it's going to be a 4-parter as well. Then we'll probably do the Rabbits The Path. It's 3 25-minute episodes, and I'll probably break those into 2 parts, which means I'll run probably 15-20 minutes of my commentary. So then we'll jump into season 2, the final season. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Bunch of pictures of the stall. It was weird, standing in the ladies' bathroom with a man taking pictures. Thankfully, nobody walked in.
In this day and age, that would probably get the police called if, you had a man and a woman in a woman's restroom taking pictures.
I left Jones at the restaurant. I had a private date with a billionaire. Thanks for seeing me again. I'm sure you must be extremely busy.
Well, nobody's busier than anybody else.
Well, I'm not sure that's exactly true.
We're all busily avoiding death together, aren't we?
And Scorpio brings up a good point there. It's seriously something that, you look at it seriously, it's not funny, but if you look at it, from the grand scheme of things, that yes, we're all avoiding death. We're all actively and busily avoiding death.
I suppose so.
Is there something specific that you'd like to know?
Well, my friend Yumiko was looking into Hazel and the murder of Emily Masterson.
She believed Hazel killed Emily Masterson.
Yeah. How did you know?
It was a popular theory at the time.
Can you tell me anything else about what happened or what was happening around that time?
1998, that was a long time ago.
What about that ROM you sent to Yumiko?
I was asked to send that package to somebody named Yumiko at that address. That's it.
Are you in the habit of just sending random packages?
Well, depends who's asking.
Who asked this time?
Nobody. It was an exchange.
An exchange of what?
Information.
And yeah, that's kind of dubious at best. Scorpio is that kind of crazy. He's that sane type of crazy. So yeah, that might sound contradictory, but the more we get to know Scorpio, the clearer it'll become.
What information?
Unrelated to you or your friend. I needed something, and somebody wanted something in return.
What somebody?
It was all online. Anonymous.
Fine. What did you think of...
I really don't think Carly is believing Mr. Scorpio at this point.
what was on the ROM?
I didn't see it.
You knew Yumiko's face was on there.
I listened to your podcast.
Oh,
I'm really enjoying it. I can't wait to see how it ends.
thanks.
You're welcome. I just sent that package to the gym. There are rules.
Whose rules? The warden's? Scarpio just smiled.
In a way, and it's kind of reinforced this listen through, is that maybe the past winners of rabbits kind of work in tandem with the wardens in order to facilitate the game and make sure it runs properly.
Apparently, he didn't want to discuss the wardens. I pulled out my laptop and showed him the photos I'd taken of the Defender 2 ROM.
The logic board was actually Defender 2?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
What do you think?
I assumed you've looked carefully at the photos of these graphics.
Of course. I took them.
And what did this one tell you?
He pointed.
See, when somebody asks me a question like that on a photo that I've taken, I automatically assume that there's something I missed.
Pointed to the photo of the WTF screen with the name Hazel, the graphic of the rabbit, and the words "Find Harley, gone hunting." What about it?
It doesn't work like that.
What doesn't work like what?
You have to expend some effort, some energy to figure this stuff out. That's the spirit of the game. That's what the game requires from you. It's a kind of covenant.
And he's right, though. Just in general life practices, if somebody spoon feeds you stuff, it's not near as important to you as if you go out and earn it yourself.
I just want to find my friend.
What did you find in that library book?
A code that led to an address.
And what do you see when you look at these words and pixels?
Just words and pixels.
Look closer.
For what?
Hazel.
What about Hazel?
I'm afraid that's all I can tell you, Carly. You're gonna have to figure the rest out on your own.
It's.
I imagine, though, from Scorpio's point of view, it is probably at somewhere in his logic circuits in his brain that it's tough not just to vomit out all the information that you have. And it's probably really, as hard as it is for Carly to try to suss this stuff out, it is probably equally as hard for Scorpio not just to tell her.
Please, I just want to find my friend.
Your friend was working with somebody else.
Who?
Look closer.
That was all I got from Alan Scarpio. He handed back my laptop. He had zoomed in on the graphic of the rabbit, the word Hazel below it, the words "Find Harley, gone hunting" below that. Look closer, he said. So I did. I stared at the image, zoomed in and out and all around, typed the words and phrases into every type of translation and search engine I could find. It wasn't until I thought back to a question Alan Scarpio had asked me earlier. How did I find the address via that library book? Numbers and letters. Find Harley, gone hunting. FHGH. 6878.
And that is kind of clever. The first time I listened through, I missed that totally. But having listened to it before, I knew that was coming up. And the reason why I was talking about the trouble with, Scorpio possibly having trouble not blurting out things is I know I have trouble trying to keep from spoiling things for people. And I run into that let them listen to it for themselves type thing.
So, another coincidental appearance of that number. Or perhaps I'm looking so hard for connections that I'm seeing things that might not be there. I switched to the pictures we'd taken of the bathroom stall, looking at the tiny 4-digit numbers surrounding the graffiti. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't turn them into anything that made sense. And no, none of them were 6878. I went back to the pictures of the Defender 2 ROM. It took me another hour or so to find something else. Something that was definitely there.
And that's the thing about puzzles, is you don't see it until you see it, then you can't unsee it.
The graphic of the rabbit was made up of pixels. There were lit pixels and spaces made up of black or empty pixels. I zoomed in and went through the entire image of that rabbit, line by line, and typed the results into Notepad. Using a 1 for each lit pixel and a 0 for each black pixel, I typed out a whole bunch of binary code. When I inserted that code into a binary to text converter, I found a URL. I typed that URL into a browser. Nothing. I loaded a Tor browser and added .onion to the end of the extremely long link. The result? A photograph.
Yeah, and that's kind of crazy when you get down to it.
It was a photo of Hazel, or more accurately, a photo of Hazel and Emily Masterson. I called Jones immediately and asked him to come over.
Yeah, this is where we get some more key information.
What's up?
I went back over to Alan Scarpio's place.
And?
And he was weird and cryptic again.
Okay, so what does that mean?
Find Harley gone hunting. FHGH 6878.
That was from the Stargate ROM.
Defender 2, yeah.
That's interesting. Anything else? Carly.
There was also this. I handed Jones my laptop with the photo of Hazel and Emily Masterson. He stared at the screen for a long time. He appeared to be visibly struck by the image. His eyes looked different. He was shaken. He handed back my laptop, and I was once again looking at the photo of Hazel and Emily Masterson. Jones was Hazel.
And Scorpio knew it.
Where did you find this?
I've got a few questions I'd like to ask first, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay, let's start with this. The girl who had the same dream as us. The girl with the Gatwick Institute R7 parents who died. It was Emily Masterson, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay, next question. What the fuck is going on?
And that is kind of, I think I'd be in the same frame of mind as Carly is on a revelation of that nature.
Just as I was about to win, or complete the 8th iteration of Rabbits, just before the convergence, in 2007, my girlfriend, Emily Masterson, died in what appeared to be a freak accident.
You were about to win. Emily wasn't playing?
Not officially, but unofficially, she was invaluable. She helped me a lot. She was important to me.
Okay, I don't want to come off as insensitive here, but you...
What?
You didn't have anything to do with her death, right?
I had everything to do with it.
What do you mean?
I think, though, if somebody told me something like that without context, I mean, we're going to get to context, but I think I would be taking, like, steps backwards away from that person while asking for context.
I mean, if I hadn't dragged her to England to help me win the game, she'd still be alive.
Yumiko believed you had something to do with Emily's death. Something more sinister.
Yes.
You knew that.
Yes. I knew that she believed Hazel had purposely killed Emily Masterson. As Jones, I was helping Yumiko, or trying to help her uncover the truth, but the 9th version of Rabbits is corrupt. Things aren't the same. When Yumiko found the same photo you did, she kind of freaked out.
She learned you were Hazel,
Yes.
and she ran.
Yes.
From you.
In part, yes.
So, you have to ask yourself, how much is actually true in Jones's story, and how much he thinks is true from his point of view.
In part?
Yumiko had become convinced that somebody was following her. Somebody else.
Wardens?
Possibly. She was becoming confused.
I don't understand why she didn't feel she could talk to me about all of this stuff.
It's against the rules.
You play the game, you never tell.
Yes.
But I'm telling with this podcast.
Yes.
Okay, help me understand. What's happening here? What?
And I do not fault Carly on any of her questions, because a normal, rational human being would probably have the same questions she has.
What's going on?
When Emily died, I stopped playing the game and went into hiding. I didn't know it at the time, but something happened. It took me a long time to figure out that it may have had something to do with me either quitting the game when I did, or Emily's death, or my experiencing the stress of that event, or perhaps some combination of all of those things, but I now believe that the mechanisms of the game were disturbed somehow, altered at that point. An adjustment was missed that threw things off, pulled certain elements off course.
Our universe or dimension was off somehow?
I think so.
And see, that makes a lot of sense from the prospect of, look at all the chaos and insanity going on. So yeah, these came out, I believe, 2000. I believe this was 2016, and season 2 was 17. I don't know. I'd have to look it up, but I think even with the turmoil and stuff in that time period, it was interesting.
I think it had become corrupt, although I didn't think of it in those terms at that time.
What happened after you quit playing?
Like I said, I didn't notice anything at first.
Sorry, I mean, what happened with you, personally?
Oh, right. Well, I began to rebel against order, I suppose.
And I can understand that as rebelling against order is kind of my default setting. What I want to know is, yes, that they get into the fact that Emily Masterson had the same dream that they had, but did she have an experience like Carly's pool experience and Jones's burning down the town experience? I'd love to see him do a series or even a short story or a novel that centers around Jones playing the 8th iteration of the game, because I think that would be fascinating.
I'd spent my entire life looking for order, trying to make sense out of the chaos of life, and after Emily's death, I started a kind of crusade against the world, against everything.
WTF. Where's our future?
Yeah. I became obsessed with doing something to help a world I felt had lost its way, its identity.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I was young. I came up with ideas, things I genuinely thought would help.
A revolution.
Kind of thing, yeah.
And I will always have a soft spot in my heart for revolutionaries. Whether the revolutionary leads to a positive or a negative, I always have this soft spot for the fact that whatever they feel they need to rebel against, that they do. And like I said, some of them are for good, some of them are for bad. But still, at the heart of being a revolutionary, you have to have the strength to believe in what you believe in.
How did that work out?
It didn't take long for certain types to take up the cause as their own. Although I created the movement, I wasn't actively engaged in the whole WTF thing for very long. It kind of took on a life of its own pretty quickly.
It went viral.
Well, among a very small group of people, yes.
People who wanted change.
And I wanted change. True and valuable change, but as the years passed, the more I looked into certain things, the more I examined patterns within the complex systems of certain cities and governments, I began to suspect that things had veered seriously off track.
Things were off?
Way off.
And that, I think that's one of the things that inspires in the real world when things go so far awry that people need to rebel and stand up and do what they need to do. Let me see. What I was thinking is there's a quote from one of, I think it's Children of Dune, or it may be Dune Messiah by Frank Herbert, that there's a kind of a proverb that says that in every revolution are planted the seeds of the next revolution, which is kind of, if depending on how much immersement you have in this Rabbits podcast, and like I said, it's good to go listen to it without my commentary to derive your own meaning, your own view of it, but that him rebelling by not finishing the game laid the seeds for all the things that have come afterward.
And at this point, I began to suspect that I had something to do with it.
With rabbits?
Yes, when 9 started. I could tell immediately that something was wrong. Very wrong. 9 was more dangerous. The game was infected.
Which could have, Jones could be completely right that it was his doing, that the game has to compensate for him not finishing the 8th iteration. So, don't know. Or basically the equivalent of a virus was able to seep in and corrupt the game.
An adjustment that had been missed needed to be made.
What kind of adjustment?
Based on everything I was seeing and everything I'd learned about the game up to that point, I began to suspect that we were headed towards something final. Entropy. The end.
And I think, to a certain degree, people that follow the news on a regular or semi-regular basis will get that feeling from time to time.
It was as if the Earth was suddenly moving toward the sun in complete annihilation, and nobody had a clue that it was happening. At that point, I decided to switch my focus from political and social change to simple survival. Our survival.
One could argue that switching to the survival of the human race is probably a greater calling than just merely political and social change.
This dimension was... what, breaking apart?
Dying. Yes.
Okay, so you were trying to save the world by helping facilitate some kind of interdimensional adjustment? Slipping us over onto the right track.
It sounds pretty dramatic, I know.
What makes you think things changed so much with the 9th iteration of the game?
The players weren't able to participate the same way. Where there used to be clues and signposts, there were now dangerous complications.
Like Yumiko's video.
Exactly.
In some ways, I wonder if the game is overcompensating for the correction that got missed with the 8th iteration.
The game had become corrupt, broken. I could see that, but I didn't believe anybody else could. At least not before it was too late. And players were dying and disappearing. It was far more dangerous and chaotic than before. So, I started to help some of the players. Players who were either extremely gifted or whose lives appeared to be threatened by their participation.
Yumiko.
Yes.
Why Yumiko?
I'd started playing the game again myself by this point, examining the clues, looking for the patterns, for the convergence.
And that led you to Yumiko?
That's what I thought, at first.
At first? What do you mean?
I believed that everything had been leading me to Yumiko, that it would be possible, working with Yumiko, to follow the signs and markers to eventually uncover the point of convergence, to facilitate the slip, but that wasn't the case.
No?
No.
You've got to applaud the voice actor for this, because you can hear the desperation in his voice.
Everything had actually been leading me somewhere else.
Where?
To you.
See, what you have to wonder now is Was Yumiko's disappearance a way of the game to get Carly to play? Or was it happenstance? Or it just happened that they were friends? And the self-correcting allowed this to fall. But then again, is it an overcorrection or not?
To me?
Yumiko, Monica Morelli, and many, if not all of the other participants in the game had been corrupted, confused, and eventually they all died or disappeared.
All of them?
All of them but you.
And you?
Yes.
Why?
I believe it's related to our parents' involvement with the Gatwick Institute.
It's genetic?
I believe it is.
See, if the Gateway Institute, Gatwick, excuse me, it makes you wonder if that's just a present day name, or iteration of whatever force in the multiverse of this show has, decided this is how we're going to correct things. And like I said, is it happenstance? Is it overcorrection? Or is it the right amount of correction?
You should take a look at this.
He pulled up a PDF on his phone and handed it to me. It was a few pages that appeared to contain, among other things, research results from a series of studies. Extremely strange and dangerous studies.
So yeah, it makes you wonder, like I was saying in the last commentary bit, is the Gateway Institute has probably been around under different names and iterations through time, and it makes you wonder if they've been running this type of corrections, minor corrections, major corrections, all through the centuries.
Jones believes these Gatwick Institute studies are the real legacy of MK Ultra. I'm going to read some excerpts from that PDF for you now.
And I believe this would be a good place to stop. This video is probably fairly lengthy at this point. So we'll come in next week and we'll listen to her reading the PDF from this stuff that she's found. My brain blinked out there, so I defaulted to a generic word like stuff. So, and until next week, take care, be safe, peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?